Um, so, strings. Again, there's not a lot to say about strings really, and wherever you buy your banjo or you go to a shop, you probably find out mostly what you want to, or online or whatever. But having said that, it's no harm to know a few things. One is makes of strings. Well, there's different brands out there. I mean, if you can get strings from most banjo suppliers, music shops. If you're playing originally, tenor banjo strings would have came in the American tenor banjo tuning. So quite often, if you go to big music stores, you'll find that they're supplied for the CGDA tuning, the American tenor banjo tuning, as opposed to this Irish tuning, which is GDAE. The difference being that this is in a lower tuning, and the lower notes require thicker strings. So if you get the CGDA strings and put them on and try and tune it to GDAE, the strings will be too slack and it won't play properly. So first of all, you need to get the strings for the right tuning that you're in. So if you're in CGDA tuning, you need CGDA strings, and if you're playing Irish tenor tuning, GDAE, you need Irish tenor banjo tuning strings. Now, shops in Ireland are generally now are used to that. Going back some years, like you often got the other ones, but now that's quite common. Like if you're looking for strings for your banjo, so you'll be getting Irish tenor banjo tuning strings from most shops that supply banjos or instruments for Irish music. You would have them. So for instance, if you're dealing with the likes of Clarine and Galway, they'll have strings specifically made for that, or wherever you shop for your music supplies. But then you'll have the option possibly of and of course online you get different brands. There's not a lot of difference between most of them, to be honest. In the brands, I haven't found a huge difference myself now in quality or anything of the strings, really. If you get the right gauges, they're usually phosphor bronze wound or nickel wound strings, and the quality is usually quite good in most of the brands. The phosphor bronze or the nickel are two different things. You get these are nickel. I use the nickel at the moment because I just find I get a lot longer out of them before they go dead in sound. The phosphor bronze have a warmer sound, and if you wanted that, or you wanted it for a specific thing you were doing, like a concert or whatever, a recording, or suited a particular banjo that you had, it was maybe a brighter banjo or a harsher banjo and you wanted to tone it down a bit. The phosphor bronze are warmer and sweeter a bit in tone. Having said that, then if you had a quieter or a duller banjo and you put the nickel strings on it, they brighten it up. So there's that difference between the nickel and the bronze. The main difference for me is that the nickel just last and still sound quite good, whereas the phosphor bronze, if you're playing them with the sweat on your hands and stuff, can get quite dull quite quick. The other thing is then, when you are getting your banjo strings, is you probably have the option of getting light gauge, medium gauge or heavy gauge. Generally speaking, medium gauge is a good option for most people. These are actually light gauge, but I have them on it for a reason at the moment. But generally speaking, medium gauge, which are your first string is a plain string. In other words, it's not wound with the nickel or the bronze, it's just plain steel, and it's a 12 in gauge 0.012 or 0.12 of a millimeter, I think it is. So we just call them by their 12. So in your medium gauge, your first string, your E is a 12, your A is a wound 18, your D is a wound 28 and your G is a wound 38. Now they're your medium gauges. Now if you did have a banjo and you thought they were too thick, you can get a lighter gauge, and if you thought they were too thin, you can get a thicker gauge, or too loose on it or something like that, you get a thicker, and vice versa. But generally speaking, medium gauge are probably most people use. And then you, depending on your banjo, you will have either a loop end on the string that goes over a little lug that's down on your tailpiece, or you'll have a ball end if your tailpiece is on a particular banjo only takes one or the other. You have to get loop or you have to get ball. Some tailpieces accommodate either loop or ball. Generally speaking, I think banjo strings are loop end, but that's just one other thing to be aware of. So loop end, ball end, bronze thing, short scale or long scale. So 17th fret banjo or 19th fret banjo. Yes, there is a difference. If you were using heavier gauge 19 frets, they'd probably do okay on a short scale, but there'd be more like a medium on that. So generally speaking, because of the short scale length of a 17th fret, the strings have to be a little bit thicker to engage to tune to the same notes. That's all really, like, I mean, if you got the other set of these strings and you put them on short scale, it'd probably work, but they'd probably be a little bit light or slack on it. But if you have a short scale and you're getting strings from some shop, it's worthwhile getting the short scale strings, and then again you'll have the same options of probably light gauge, medium gauge or heavy gauge. That's really all there is to know about strings. Putting the string on and stuff like that is, well, it's quite simple, it's quite obvious really. You thread it through, you put it over the lug down here, thread it under. It'll be different on different banjos, but usually it's under the tailpiece, over the bridge, down through the nut, thread it through the eye of the tuner here. Leave a bit of slack so that it can go around this a few times to secure it and hold it. And usually you'd wind it over the string. When the end is out here, it'd come over the string the first time, and then make it go under the string, or vice versa, so that it kind of ties it in a knot, so it holds it in tune better. And then wind it up to where it's tight, and that's all there is to putting the string on. That's a different thing really. So that's about all you can say about strings really. Okay, thank you.